Before I get into this video, I just want to thank all of you for the absolutely overwhelming response to my Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines video. I never expected that any of my videos would do anywhere near as well as that one has, and before this I think my highest viewed video was my Castlevania 64 video, or maybe Ocarina of Time, both of which sit at a little over 2,000 views. I don't know if we can keep that kind of thing going. I'm pretty sure it was just a right place, right time kind of thing, with Bloodlines 2 being what it is. But thank you all anyway. Give me an idea to do a series on retro games based on tabletop games, which I'll start doing eventually. I was going to do a video on Beyond Sunset, but I think I'm going to stream that game on Twitch instead. Anyway, let's get on with this video on my Xbox 360 series. Rage came out in early October 2011 for PC, Xbox 360, and PS3, with an OS X port coming out in 2012. Developed by id Software using the id Tech 5 engine and published by Bethesda. It was originally supposed to be published by EA before Bethesda bought id, so I think they dodged a bullet there. id wanted to create a game based around muscle cars in a desert setting, which eventually evolved into a post-apocalyptic setting. It was developed by a team of about 60 people and was intended to be id's next big franchise, but, well, we'll get there. We are, of course, talking about the Xbox 360 port for this video. Port comes on 3 discs, which the game tells you that you should install for best results, but it's not strictly necessary. And you really only need the first 2 discs. The third was for multiplayer. There is an actual manual included here, which goes over the controls, the HUD, information about the weapons and items you can use, maps of the 2 hub areas, and so on. It's not the most interesting manual out there, but it does its job, and at least it's there. A lot of the games from the 7th generation really only had slips with the controls listed on them, if you are lucky. Speaking of slips, there's an ad for Doom 3 BFG Edition, which I've already done a video on, and you can watch it if you want. Once you start the game and pick from one of 4 different difficulty options, easy, medium, hard, or nightmare, an opening cutscene plays that shows a massive asteroid hitting Earth, and a bunch of people had gone into special arcs underground to one day re-emerge and rebuild the world. It's a lot like Fallout, but it's an asteroid instead of a global nuclear war. The arcs are significantly smaller than vaults, and all the inhabitants are cryogenically frozen. You play as Nicholas Rain, a survivor from one of these arcs, the only survivor from your arc, in fact. I know, that sounds a lot like Fallout 4, but Rage is a better game, and they did it first. Anyway, as soon as you leave your arc, you get ambushed by a bandit, but then immediately saved by Dan Hagar. John Goodman then proceeds to give you the least amount of background information possible, and then tells you that an organization called the Authority has put a bounty on arc survivors for some reason, and also the rest of the bandits are going to be looking for you. From here on, you'll spend some time doing various jobs for different settlers in exchange for new weapons, items, and armor, while learning a bit more about the world and the plot of the game as a whole. Yeah, let's talk about the armor and really health in general. Rage uses a regenerating health system. The armor you get is pretty much meaningless. You can get some upgrades which will allow you to take more damage before dying, and you can also craft and use bandages which will instantly heal you instead of having to wait for your health to regenerate, but still. Aside from that, no health pickups, no armor pickups. They explain this by saying you have nanobots in your bloodstream which are constantly healing you. I don't really mind this as much as other people seem to. I think being able to have bandages in your inventory keeps you from having to just stand there and do nothing every time you get hurt. But having to wait for your health to regenerate just means that you're made out of wet tissue paper and can be killed really easily, and what armor upgrades you get don't help that much. But also, being able to have as many bandages as you're either able to buy or craft keeps the action moving. On top of this, when you die, you'll have the chance to revive yourself with an internal defibrillator by matching up some button prompts. This can also deliver a shock to nearby enemies, so you have the chance to get out of immediate danger when you revive. This does have a pretty steep cooldown, so if you die again before the cooldown ends, you'll have to reload a save. And since this is the Xbox 360 port, that's primarily going to be checkpoint saves, which usually trigger anytime you enter a new area. This is usually fine, but some of the game's missions can be fairly lengthy, and if you do end up dying towards the end, you'll have to do the whole thing all over again. Luckily, you can actually manually save anytime you want, so as long as you remember to do that, you'll be fine. Main missions are divided into two different types. Well, okay, one and a half. Most of them will have you go into an area, kill everyone or everything there, and come back. But some will have you do that and also find a specific item while you're there. There's not a lot of variety. But the mission areas are usually designed pretty well, even if they are pretty linear and straightforward most of the time. There are a few different kinds of side missions, as well as some mini games you can do as a diversion from the action. Out in the world, in various locations, you'll find cards. Add these cards to a deck you can buy to play Rage Frenzy, which is a collectible card game similar to, yet legally distinct from, Magic the Gathering, but Wizard of the Coast isn't going to send the Pinkertons over to id's offices. I'm not super into it, but it's fun enough a couple times. You can also play a mini game where you have to stab the table at marked locations and not stab your fingers, that I'm terrible at, and also a little dice game where you roll the dice to determine how many mutants you can kill before they overwhelm you. It's entirely RNG dependent. There's no skill involved with it at all. You can win money in all of these games, but you can lose it just as easily, and that's money you could use for ammo and other supplies, so it's up to you to determine whether or not it's worth it. A job board in the two different hub areas, as well as some NPCs, will have side jobs for you to do. Some will just have you go to an area to find an item or to clear it out, sometimes both, but there are also simpler missions which have you guard people from bandits or mutants with a sniper rifle. You can also participate in races. There are 4 different kinds of races you can do. There's time trials, which your only objective there is to beat the time. There's non-combat races, which are you versus 3 other racers, and you have to come in first after 3 laps. Combat races, which are the same thing, but you get to use weapons. And relays, where you have to pick up more checkpoints than the other racers to score points, but you can also score points by destroying your competition. Relays kinda suck. They're less about being a better driver and more about being in the right place at the right time. They're just not very fun. None of these races are super interesting, really. There's only a small handful of tracks that just kind of repeat over and over and over again, but they serve as a nice diversion from the main game, and you can use the race certificates that you win from them to upgrade the various vehicles you get throughout the game, giving them performance upgrades and armor and weapons and that kind of thing. Unlike the main character, your vehicles actually do have a real health bar. There are items you can buy which will repair the vehicle instantly, but short of that, you have to pay for repairs at a garage. They're not very expensive unless you completely destroy it, but that's hard to do unless you're trying or you're really bad at it. You can also equip miniguns and rocket launchers to your vehicle so you don't find yourself completely defenseless against enemy vehicles out in the overworld. Vehicle combat is pretty basic, just shoot the thing until it dies, and most things usually go down in a couple hits from the rocket launcher. Sometimes out in the world you'll be given a chance to destroy X amount of enemy vehicles for a certain amount of money, and an NPC in the hub areas will also pay you X amount of money and racing certificates for every enemy vehicle you destroy. You'll also find these authority drones out in the world, and if you can do an insane stunt bonus jump and hit the drone, you'll be rewarded with some crafting materials. There's all kinds of things you can craft in this game with the right materials and the right schematics. From bandages to sentry turrets and grenades and lock grinders, there's a lot. Crafting is as simple as having the stuff in your inventory, going into the crafting menu and hitting the button. That's it. You can even craft special kinds of ammo, which brings me to the weapons. Weapons are pretty much your standard FPS fare, more or less exactly what you'd expect from id Software. Each gun has a few different special ammo types. Your pistol gets really powerful bullets, your shotguns gets explosive shells, assault rifles get armor-piercing rounds, and your crossbow gets shock darts, which can electrify enemies that are standing in water, which sounds awesome, but there aren't as many opportunities to use them as there should be. And there's also mind-controlled darts. Those are cool. They'll let you take control of an enemy for a short time before they self-destruct, so you can use that to walk into a group of enemies, self-destruct, and take them all out. There's no BFG 9000, but there is BFG ammo for your plasma gun. You get it really late in the game, so you don't get the chance to use it much, but it's there, and it does pretty much exactly what you'd expect it to, just not anywhere near as visually appealing. You can assign 4 different weapons to your HUD at any given time, switching between weapons and ammo types with the right bumper and selecting them from the wheel. It's not really a wheel. Wheel would have been better and probably would have let you have access to all of your weapons without having to swap out assigned weapons, but yeah, it's close enough. Item selection works the same way. You can assign up to 4 items to the different D-pad directions and then use the selected item with left bumper. Aside from the whole regenerating health thing, I still dig the combat in this game, for the most part. It's an id Software game. They know how to make an FPS feel good. Sure, there's not anywhere near as much enemy variety as there is in something like Doom or Quake. There's pretty much just melee bandits, ranged bandits, authority soldiers, and mutants, which are pretty much just Fallout's feral ghouls. But I don't think that detracts from the overall experience. The AI is actually pretty decent. Enemies will take cover and try to flank you, use grenades to flush you out of cover when your health is regenerating, and even run away from you if they're being overwhelmed. On the other hand, there are precisely 2 creatures that pass as bosses in this game, and neither one of them are interesting. There's a bandit that hides behind a turret in an APC, and one giant mutant. The bandit can be killed by just shooting it a bunch in between its rounds of firing at you, and the giant mutant can be taken out in just a few shots from your rocket launcher, and its weak points are highlighted for you. How convenient. Like I said in the Doom 3 video, boss fights have never really been id Software's strong point. Now, I generally don't like to go over the entire game's plot in my videos. I've done that a couple times before, and I kind of regret doing it. I like to go under the assumption that at least one person who watches my videos knows nothing about the game I'm talking about. It's unlikely, but it's possible, and to that end, I don't like explaining every tiny little detail, because at that point, what else is there for you to discover for yourself? With all of that said, I gotta talk a bit about this game's ending because there really isn't one. You get sent on a mission to break into Authority headquarters and use their computers to send signals to every other Ark, which is supposed to awaken all of the Ark survivors so that they can fight for the Resistance. After you fight through a whole bunch of Authority dudes, you start uploading the signal, and then you have to fight off a few waves of mutants as the upload completes. Once it completes, that's it. There's an extremely brief cutscene, and then the credits roll. No end credits scene, no nothing. Now, I think they did this because, like I said, they wanted this to be a part of a big franchise, but we wouldn't see Rage 2 for another 8 years, and it was fine. There were parts of it I genuinely enjoyed, but it had its fair share of problems and wasn't even developed by id. It was developed by Avalanche. And I have my doubts as to whether or not we'll even see a Rage 3. I'm a sucker for post-apocalyptic shit, so despite its flaws, I actually really like Rage. It's definitely not id Software's best game, and the world building is a step back from what it was in Doom 3, but it's got a pretty good atmosphere. It just looks gritty and mean, like a post-apocalyptic game should. Some games that claim to be post-apocalyptic just end up looking way too bright and squeaky and clean. Looking at you, Fallout 76. The game does have a bit of a sense of humor, but not too much. Certainly nowhere near the ridiculous levels of Borderlands, and there are Easter eggs to some of id's other games, mostly Doom, and also a couple Fallout references as well, what with it being published by Bethesda and all that, but I don't care what anyone says, Fallout is not a Bethesda game. But that's a different video for a different day. For now, this is the part where I tell you to do all the liking, commenting, subscribing, and joining of the Discord server. I don't know what the next video is going to be on. Maybe we'll talk about Saints Row 3. Let me know what you want to see. I will be genuinely surprised if this video even gets a third of the views of my Bloodlines video, but all the same, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Have yourself a fantastic time zone, and I will see you in the next one.